A game without animations is just boring. So if we want our games to be immersive and interesting, we're going to need to know how to set up animations in Unity. Well, now it's easier than ever with Bolt and custom events. If after this video you'd like more information on setting up and executing custom events, I'd encourage you to check out One Wheel Studios' video on custom events. Link in the description below. Today we're going to add a new animation to the 2D Bolt Platformer Tutorial Asset Pack. I'll walk you through what I did from start to finish and how I implemented it into my game without a single line of code. Let's get started. Okay, for our dash animation, I'm just going to grab the jump because when you jump with your character, it's just one frame. It just makes a little jump animation. So I'm going to take that same thing and I'm going to move that into Photoshop like so, and I'm just going to turn it sideways, kind of slightly. But once I get that set, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag that into my game, and I have it, let's rename that player dash, and under the player, go to animator or animation and create a new animation, and let's call this player dash. And then we're going to grab that, and then we're just going to pull it into our game. So when we push play, it does actually turn to that sprite, but you notice it's a little small. The way you can fix that is just going to player, go to that player dash sprite, and then change that to 50, and then you should hit, we open up our sprite editor, and it should allow us to apply that, which it did. So now whenever it is animating, it will turn sideways. Cool. Okay, going into our animator, you should see that you now have a new animation called player dash. But we're actually going to need a little bit more. If your animator is on layers, click on parameters, and then let's add another parameter, and let's call that dashing, and add that. And I believe that is going to be a bool. So whenever we're dashing, it's going to be playing this animation. If we're not dashing, it won't play that animation. Okay, once we have that set up, let's drag any state over to the right a little bit because we're going to have to put that dash in between that. We want to be able to dash whenever we're running, and whenever we're jumping, we need to be able to do that from any state. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a transition from any state to dash, and we're going to make another transition from dash to walk, because and we can make a transition from dash to idle. Okay, now going to the transition from state to player dash, we're going to need to set that up to where we have a condition of dashing. Where's it at? Oh, you know what? I didn't name it. Let me fix that. Thought I had that fixed. Dashing. Okay. All right. So now we'll have when this is true from any state, we can go into player dash. And when we go from walk, we need speed to be greater than 0.1, and we also need dashing to be false. The idle animation is going to be very similar, but not quite the same. We're going to be doing speed less than 0.1, and dash is false. Okay, another thing to check for is when you're going from your transitions, we need to make sure that it's not trying to play something over and over again. We don't need it to do that. So we can just click off has exit time on each one of these. That's not necessary. We don't have to do that. All right, and we'll just kind of shorten the length. All right, so now this should be set up in the animator. How do we call that from Bolt? Setting up an animation in Bolt is actually really easy. Going into my movement controller, I already have set up. I have this dash function, so whenever I press the dash button and I can dash, then it's going to check my movement, make sure I am moving, and if I am, then it's going to trigger my dashing custom event. And so to set up the bool for that animation, what we're going to do is we're going to break that line, and we're going to do set bool for animator, and we're going to say, I believe I called that dashing. Let's check the animator real quick. Yep, dashing. So set dashing to true. Then we're going to go into our custom event, which I believe was under our player states. So let's go find that real quick. So go under player states, and whenever I'm dashing, once I'm done dashing, at the very end of this, I'm going to need to turn that bool back off to let us know that we're not dashing anymore. Setting this up in the right spot is actually important though, because we want it to be a little bit of delay after he's done dashing before he goes back to normal. So what we're going to do, I don't know if you remember from the other tutorial that I did on setting up a dash feature, if you took part on that, I put a little delay here and I said it was going to come back into play whenever we got to our animator. So what we're going to do here is we're going to put a little delay after we exit the dashing state. Animator, let's set bool actually. Set bool on the animator, and dashing, we're going to set that to false, and then we're going to go back to trigger transition. So now when we dash, it should set up our animation to where we will go into our dash modes. Let's see if that works. Okay, looks like it is working for me. Hopefully it's working for you too. Seems like it's not giving me the dash function in the air though, so we're going to have to address that. Okay, in order to get this working correctly, we're actually going to have to add a little bit more to our animator. We wanted to make it where from any state we can go to the player dash, but we also need to make sure that whenever we are dashing, when we're done dashing, we go back to a walk whenever we're grounded, and we go back to a jump whenever we're not grounded. So the way to do that is just go to that little transition from player dash to walk, and add another variable in there. Grounded is true. And then from our walk animation, we're going to go back to our jump, and we'll have to say grounded speed is greater than 0.1. Dashing is false. And on our speed, on grounded, it is false. So again, you're going to have to play with these values a little bit and make sure your animation triggers the way that you want it to. But essentially what we're doing here is we're making it to whenever the player is in the air that the dash gets priority. Okay, in order to fix this, I think one of the things I had to do is delete this transition from any state to the jump, and then put it back in. And then from that, we'll just say grounded is false. So he'll do that whenever he's jumping. I just made sure, I just kind of went in there and checked and made sure that these transitions were not too long, or I even took off the has exit time, just to ensure that these aren't taking longer than they normally should, that it should happen pretty quickly. For some reason, messed it up. Okay, so jumping now has to be set correctly. So for it to go from jumping back to the idle animation, it's taken way too long. I think it's actually set up to where jump has loop time, so let's try taking that off. Oh, that didn't work. It's only calling that right whenever we are landing. Okay, so the issue is going to be this right up here. There we go. So if you notice, I hope you can see that there, that you actually get a little dash in the air now, and he'll stop. So it has to do with how long these transitions are. So you're going to have to play with that a little bit to get the effect that you want. So for a longer dash, for example, let's set one of these is going to be set too long. Okay, so I figured it out. On this transition from player dash to walk or player dash to idle, we actually need that dash to be a little bit longer, and when you do that, you'll get a little bit more dash out of it. So if you kind of stretch that out and mess with those values a little bit, you should see that, that you get the desired result. So just jumping in the air. Okay, so jumping in the air is not what we need it to be. Okay, so I figured out what the issue is. The issue is that we need to go to our state graph and get inside our state graph on the return from dash. We just need to turn that value up to 0.3. And that should give you a longer dash in the air, but you're going to have to go back to the animator and fix those values from player dash to walk and to idle, just to make sure that they're not too long. You're going to have to play around with that to get the effect that you want. But when you're done, it should look something like this. So whenever you move and you dash on the ground, you get a dash effect. and in the air you get that same effect. Okay, just really quickly, if you start messing with the scale when you're animating, you're going to mess up the little function that we had set up over here where you flip on the X. So there is actually a way to fix that without having to use this Vector 3. They actually have a feature that is installed with this that works a lot better. So what we're going to do right here is going to break that. We're going to go down here to another branch because we need to check if another true or false statement. If A is less than B, if that's true, then what we're going to do is we're going to sprite render. We need to flip the X. Okay, flip the X. Let's copy that, paste it right down here. Okay, and run off of the false right down here. We need to set this one to true, that one to false. Okay, from both of these two, we need to run that into our next unit right here. And that should fix our problem. Okay, now you know how to set up an animation in Bolt. Hopefully this video was helpful for you. Maybe though you're wanting a little bit more polish and feedback in your game. If only somebody created a tutorial video for how to do that.